Today, I want to talk about magnesium, specifically magnesium supplementation in perimenopause and menopause. Why do you want to even consider this as a part of your daily regimen? First off, let's just start with what magnesium is. Magnesium is a mineral. It's a mineral that your body needs to adequately use your muscles, to keep your bones healthy, and to keep your nervous system in check. It helps keep your heart rhythm normal, keeps your immune system healthy. It helps you to balance your blood sugar levels, and it is involved at the cellular level in not only making protein, but also generating energy in the cells. Magnesium can be found in foods like green vegetables, beans, peas, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. So magnesium is actually an essential requirement for the production of estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. Magnesium also reduces oxidative stress at the cellular level, which can actually reduce the aging process somewhat. So when you're in perimenopause, you're still actually producing estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, just not at an equal level like you were in your 20s and 30s. It's becoming a little erratic, and you're maybe not producing as much as you were when you were younger, but you're not completely stopped. And actually, even in menopause, you don't stop producing these hormones. You just produce them at such low levels that it actually has a negative impact on you. So when you take magnesium, you're actually helping your body create more of these hormones. Now, that said, though, as you get older, your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone levels will normally drop because your ovaries, frankly, just stop working effectively. So even if you throw a bunch of magnesium at it, it's like, being on an assembly line. If you keep throwing something on a broken assembly line, nothing's getting produced because the broken assembly line is not working. So if your ovaries are no longer producing these things, then magnesium isn't going to necessarily solve that. But magnesium does have some other essential roles that can actually mitigate some of the signs and symptoms that you might be experiencing in perimenopause and menopause, like I did. In perimenopause, there is a direct correlation between the decrease in estrogen levels and decrease in magnesium. And so what happens is that the signs and symptoms become even more evident. So taking magnesium in perimenopause is kind of an important tool in the toolkit, if you will, to help manage blood pressure, for example, or to get a better night's sleep, or to feel more relaxed, or to decrease anxiety, or to maintain your bones, because you need magnesium and vitamin D together to keep calcium in the bones. So there's a number of reasons why magnesium is really important in perimenopause and menopause. When it comes to blood pressure, magnesium actually kind of it tends to relax the blood vessels. And when you do that and they're not all tight and stressed out, you tend to decrease your overall blood pressure, because when the blood vessels relax, they kind of open up, which makes the blood flow a little easier, which decreases your blood pressure. So taking magnesium is an important tool in the toolkit with respect to reducing risk to disease for yourself. The reason why I decided I needed to add magnesium to my regimen on a daily basis was multifactored, but the main reason why I knew I had to go on magnesium was my SVT became out of control. So what is SVT? So SVT is a benign cardiac condition where I experience tachycardia, i.e. a really rapid heart rate, kind of indiscriminately or every so often. I will go into what's called an SVD arrhythmia. So SVT is supraventricular tachycardia, supra above ventricular, the ventricles tachycardia heart rate. So it is basically the sinus node of my heart, which is the pacemaker of your heart and is controlled by neurological impulses or electrical conductivity, has what people would call a short circuit. And every so often it just trips and it short circuits, and it has this thing called a reentry problem where the electrical conductivity kind of does tung, 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 tung. And as it does that, it basically causes the heart to beat at the same pace. So it'll go at, anywhere from, in my case, 170 to 220 beats per minute. Now the normal is 60 to 100. So just to give you a sense of that, my heart rate will double my fast heart rate to go up to 200. And of course, if you do that for several minutes, you can get really dizzy and start to feel really shocky and not feel good at all. So I just want to reshoot a quick thing to say that palpitations, most people, if not every single human on the planet, have palpitations. They are not usually a problem. Most of the time, palpitations are quite benign and are not dangerous. So if you start getting palpitations in perimenopause, it doesn't mean that you have major issues going on. Now, of course, you need to get them checked out, because palpitations can mean other types of arrhythmias that could be dangerous to your health. Things like atrial fibrillation, or if they are wide complex, then you can worry about things like VTAC, which can actually drop you. But the reality is, I want you to be not scared of palpitations, right? They can be uncomfortable. They can make us nervous. They can actually increase our anxiety levels. But the reality is most palpitations are completely normal, all right? They are a normal off-gassing, if you will, of the heart's cardiovascular system or electrical conductivity conductivity. The thing that you have to remember is that perimenopause, when estrogen drops, the heart becomes more sensitive to these kinds of things. And so by taking things like magnesium and taking things like estrogen, you can help to rebalance the electrical conductivity of the heart in a way that is healthier and less anxiety riddled. The reason why I bring this up in this magnesium video is because for me, I needed to do this to make myself feel better and to actually limit the palpitations that I was feeling, because I was symptomatic with my palpitations. That's the difference, is you can have a palpitation not even know you're having one. Let's just be honest. But if you're starting to become symptomatic, then this is when you start to need thinking about talking to your doctor about adding a supplement like magnesium to the equation to help you manage and monitor these palpitations. Now, physicians are likely going to prescribe other things for you. They may talk to you about things like beta blockers or calcium channel blockers to try to reduce your arrhythmias. You can certainly go down that route, and I'm not going to go against your doctor on that. I'm just saying that a simple supplement like magnesium, if everything else checks out with your heart, if everything else looks good, you've had your ECG, you've had an echocardiogram, everybody's telling you your heart's all clear, it's all in your head, it's just anxiety, consider adding magnesium to the equation. Get yourself a naturopath, go to a nurse practitioner, and start talking about how much and what kind you need to get for yourself. For those that do have SVT out there, here's the thing, is that I was the type of person that never needed to be cardioverted in a hospital. Cardioverted means, either chemically or mechanically shocked back into a normal sinus rhythm or a normal heart rhythm. I was always able to manage it through deep breathing and vasovagal maneuvers, which is when you hold your breath and you kind of bear down and it kind of puts pressure on your carotid arteries. And then it just sort of, your heart rate just boom, goes back into normal rhythm. I've been able to control my SVT since the age of 15 that way. But this year, actually several weeks ago, I had an episode that scared the living crap out of me. I basically, as a former emergency room nurse, I knew what I was dealing with. I knew I couldn't turn it over with my vasovagal. I knew I had to call EMS. We did. Long story short, I'm laying on my living room floor, 2 IVs in each arm, or an IV in each arm, being bolused, as they call it, fluids, because my blood pressure is in my boots now. I'm dropping. I'm shutting down peripherally. I'm going into shock because my heart rate is between 180 and 200 beats per minute, and it will not convert back to normal sinus rhythm. I needed medication, and so they gave me what was called adenosine. Now, adenosine, it basically takes that short circuit and it cuts it. And on an ECG, what that looks like is you get the drug, and about 10 seconds later or 5 seconds later, the heart rate that's going like this just stops, and you get a bit of a flat line, and then it'll kick back in. That's what happened to me. So 3 or 4 seconds of flat line, your heart stops for that period of time, and then it just kicks back in and is back in like normal sinus rhythm. Now, I wasn't in normal sinus because at that point my adrenaline was going, and so my heart rate was still 160 beats per minute. But once the Rantry had been stopped by the drug, then I was able to slowly get myself back on track. My blood pressure started to come up, my adrenaline started to go down, and my heart rate started to drop, come back down to normal. That had never happened to me before perimenopause. After I got back from the hospital, I touched base with my naturopath and my nurse practitioner and said, okay, it's time that we consider hormone replacement. So estrogen actually helps to control your rhythm, helps to keep your heart rhythm normal and within reason. Progesterone, when it's out of balance, can actually increase your rhythmic burden. So that's the reason why I went on to hormones. But in addition to that, I knew from a cardiac perspective, being an emergency nurse in the past, that I needed to add magnesium. So I figured, I want to slow things down. I want to control things. So I'm going to have to put myself on magnesium. It's something I can buy over the counter. I don't need to ask a doctor about this, although I would recommend that you do that. I did not have to because I knew what I was dealing with. But if you don't have a clue, please talk to your physician about this, because this is not medical advice. This is just what I did. So I knew that my SVT and my palpitations would probably benefit from some magnesium. I did some research and found out that I could take between 310 and 320 milligrams a day without any problem as a woman. I could take even up to 400 milligrams daily and be considered safe, in the safe dosing range. Men, by the way, just in case you're watching this as a man, is 400 to 420 on average per day, depending on your size. I didn't know what I had in the house, but I figured I would start looking at what I had in the house and start trying different kinds to see how I would feel. I do want to say, before I get started on the various forms of magnesium to help inform you as to what you're going to have a conversation with your doctor or your practitioner about, is if you have like diabetes, heart disease, you have kidney disease, or you have an abdominal intestinal issue, you need to talk to your doctor before taking magnesium. And here's why. So for those that have intestinal diseases like Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, magnesium can have really bad side effects on the gut. It can cause diarrhea, it can cause cramping. And so if you already have issues with your intestines, taking large doses of magnesium will likely cause some sort of flare up for you. So you want to make sure you check in with your gastroenterologist before you start taking magnesium. As for diabetes, heart disease, and kidney failure, they're all related to the same thing. If you have high blood pressure and you have diabetes, chances are your kidneys are suffering. And it's the release of magnesium in the kidneys that keeps you from being overdosed. Unless you've been all cleared from a kidney perspective and you know your kidneys are working and functioning properly, then I would not suggest taking magnesium until you've gotten the all clear from your doctors, because magnesium at high doses or at toxic levels is fatal. Like, I don't want to overstress this. Like, if you take too much and you overdose, it can kill you. It can cause you to go into a heart block, and you can end up going into having heart failure. So you want to make sure that you really make sure you do what's right for you. Be really careful when you start supplementing with magnesium. So what are the forms of magnesium, and what should you consider taking in perimenopause? Well, when I first left the hospital after my SVT, this is all I had in the house, which is magnesium citrate. This is a high absorption, 150 milligram per tab dose. This is a capsule, right? Not a compressed pill. And that's what you want, is a capsule. It's better absorbed that way. But I decided I would start with this, and it's 150 milligrams. So I took 2 of these in the afternoon, starting the time I got out of hospital. Research suggests that this kind of magnesium is one of the most bioavailable forms of magnesium, meaning it's really well absorbed by your digestive tract and than other forms. So it is a good form to start with. It's typically taken by mouth. You can take it once or twice a day if you want to start supplementing. The reason I stopped taking this is because I started having really bad gastrointestinal effects. So this citrate, unfortunately, at higher doses is used to treat constipation. So if you're not normally constipated, suddenly you're going to find yourself with very loose stool. It can also be used as a calming agent. And when I started taking this in the evenings, I actually found myself feeling sleepy after taking it. So it was almost like something that helped me rest. And I actually got good sleep with this. The thing is, like I said, is I was having too many abdominal side effects. So I decided I was going to eliminate this from my regimen and I would buy something else. Then I switched to another type of magnesium that is meant for neurological health, and it's a high potency piece from Cinermag. It actually had a total of 500 milligrams of magnesium. This was magnesium biglycinate and magnesium malate with taurine. Taurine is associated with positive outcomes from a cardiovascular perspective, but 500 was also too high. I was not only having GI issues from a diarrhea perspective, but I actually started having abdominal cramping, and I knew, okay, this is too high a dose. So that was out. The good thing about magnesium malate, if you can find the lower dose versions with taurine in it, taurine is an amino acid that has some really important roles in your body, right? And some of those roles include supporting immune health and actually can help support your nervous system. So it's the reason why people who have arrhythmias often are placed on magnesium with taurine, because the two together are really, really good for arrhythmias. I just found that this particular formulation was wreaking havoc on my gut. Magnesium and taurine also support good blood pressure or lower blood pressure levels. And in recent animal studies, magnesium taurate significantly reduced blood pressure in rats with the higher levels, indicating that this form might actually bolster heart health overall. So again, a good option to talk to your doctor about. Although there's not a lot of human research on this, it's still a good option to look at magnesium with taurine, just maybe at lower doses. Magnesium orotate is another version that includes orotic acid. That is a natural substance that is involved in the construction of genetic material like your DNA. It's apparently much easier absorbed than some of the others and has less of a laxative effect than many of the other forms of magnesium that are on the market. Early research suggests that it may actually promote heart health because of its unique role in energy production pathways in your heart and in your blood vessels. That's why this particular form is really popular with fitness enthusiasts and athletes, but it also might help people with heart disease. In fact, in one study where in 79 people with severe congestive heart failure, they found that magnesium orotate, the supplements that is, taking supplements, were significantly more effective for the symptom management and survival than those that took the placebo of people that had heart disease or heart failure. But that particular form is significantly more expensive than other forms of magnesium, so people tend to not buy this. Based on the limited evidence available, its benefits don't really justify its cost, and so that's why people tend to take other forms of magnesium. Then there's magnesium L-threonate. Now, this is a salt that's formed from mixing magnesium and threonic acid, which is a water-soluble substance derived from a metabolic breakdown. Doesn't matter what the heck it is. It just tells you that this form is also very easily absorbed, and animal research is showing that it's most effective in increasing magnesium concentrations in brain cells. So this might be the type of version you might want to take if you have a lot of brain fog, a lot of memory issues, and it can help manage certain brain disorders such as depression and age-related memory loss. Although on this particular one, more research is definitely needed because there's not a lot of evidence out there that shows you the link between these two. So the version that I settled on is magnesium malate, and this is from Designs for Health. I love this company. There's no additives. There's nothing added to these. It is completely and utterly clean other than magnesium. In this, there's 180 milligrams per capsule, and I take 2 of these per day, which is well within the recommended amounts. And I can tell you that since I've added this along with my estrogen patches, I have all but eliminated my palpitations. So if palpitations are an issue for you, I seriously think you need to look at what magnesium is going to work for you, whether it's magnesium taurate, whether it's magnesium malate, whether it's L-threonate, whatever it is. All of these different magnesiums have other, I would say, side benefits that you want to look at and see which one fits most within your personal situation. Again, really important conversation to have with your doctor or with your healthcare practitioner. But for me, personally, this magnesium malate has been a lifesaver because I no longer have palpitations that I feel are going to go out of control. I feel more balanced. I'm starting to trust my body again. I go for walks now every day. I don't feel like I'm going to go into SVT. And the palpitations aren't waking me up at night, because there was a time when the palpitations would actually wake me up. I feel so much better because I'm starting to trust my body again. So taking magnesium has been a game changer for me from a palpitation perspective. Some of the other really great effects of having magnesium on board is I do sleep a little bit better. It's not completely there yet, but it is improving now that I'm also on progesterone. I am less tired than I was. I have more energy than I had. I am more focused. I have less brain fog. It's not just the estrogen. This is a complete part of this as well. So again, do I think magnesium is important? Abso-freaking-lutely. I think that everybody who doesn't have pre-existing conditions that, requires you to not take extra, again, look at your health situation. Maybe you shouldn't be taking it. My point being is that I think it's something that you need to really consider taking. Now, there are 3 other kinds of magnesium that I have not discussed in this video, and that's chloride, glycinate, and lactate. Again, all 3 of these could be good options for you. So again, you want to have that conversation with your healthcare practitioner, because while, you could say, well, isn't all magnesium the same? Yes and no. It's absorbed differently. It has slightly different functions depending on what's connected to it. So again, important conversation with your healthcare practitioner. I do want to bring attention to 2 types that I think you should not be ingesting. The first is magnesium sulfate. That is formed by combining magnesium, sulfur, and oxygen. It's commonly known as Epsom salts, the same stuff you put in bathtubs, folks. Believe it or not, some people actually take this orally. I would not recommend that. Magnesium sulfate is frequently dissolved in bath water to soothe sore muscles, to relieve anxiety and stress, and to kind of keep you calm and centered before you go to bed at night. It's also included in skincare products like lotions and body oil. There's not a whole lot of evidence out there that tells you that taking an Epsom salt bath will actually help you absorb magnesium through the skin. So just a heads up on that. The last form of magnesium I'm going to tell you should probably avoid is magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide is a salt that combines magnesium and oxygen together, and it's usually in like this white powdery substance and sold in like powder or capsule form. It isn't typically used to prevent magnesium deficiencies because it's really poorly absorbed by your digestive tract. Instead, what's often done is it's usually used for short-term relief of digestive issues like heartburn, indigestion, things like that. So if you were wondering whether magnesium is important in perimenopause and menopause, I hope that this video gives you some insight to say, yes, it's important. It's something you should consider as part of your supplementation. Whether you decide to take citrate or malate or taurine or L-threonate, doesn't matter. Just talk to your healthcare practitioner, find what's going to work for you, and find the one that has the least side effects that are uncomfortable for you. For me, it's magnesium malate. Again, the link's down below for you if you want to take a look at it. But for the most part, I can tell you that I'm not recommending you take this version versus another version. That's a conversation with your healthcare practitioner. I'm just telling you that for me, it helped me manage my palpitations. It's helped me feel a little less anxious. It's helping me get some better sleep, and it's helping me feel more energetic. And that's all I can say about that. So, well, I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe, because I'm planning on sharing more information about my experience with perimenopause and menopause and the kinds of things I'm doing to help myself feel better so that you can have more informed conversations with your healthcare practitioner. I'm also going to cover other things on this channel that affect us ladies. And I'm here to create a community of women who will be supporting each other through the various phases of life, including perimenopause and menopause. So if you like this kind of content, make sure you subscribe, because I will be here regularly. And again, if you have any thoughts, comments, things you want covered, things you want to talk about, put it in the comments down below, and I'll do my very best to give you whatever I can on my experience and what I know as a retired registered nurse and a public health professional. So all the best to you all out there. See you in the next video. Take care.